What happens when a city decides to bury its biggest highway beneath itself? This is the Torrens to Darlington Project, South Australia's most expensive, most ambitious, and most divisive build ever. A 15.4 billion Australian dollar plan to completely rewrite how Adelaide moves. They're calling it Surgery on the City, and honestly, that's exactly what it looks like. Adelaide, quiet and spread out, suddenly turned into a giant open wound of steel, concrete, and ambition. Roads peeled open, buildings stripped back, and entire suburbs fenced off. Engineers and planners aren't just building a road here, they're performing one of the most complex urban operations in Australia's history. This is part of a 78-kilometer dream, a nonstop motorway running straight through the city's heart, connecting the north and south like a single artery. The scale, mind-bending. A 15.4 billion Australian dollar price tag and 3.9 million cubic meters of earth to move, enough to fill the Sydney Olympic Stadium twice. That's not construction, that's excavation on a biblical level. But here's the catch, every meter dug comes with risk. You're tunneling under homes, schools, and history itself. And if something shifts, cracks, or floods, the entire operation could unravel. So the question isn't just can Adelaide pull this off, it's what happens if it can't. If you've ever driven South Road, you already know why this project had to happen. For decades, it's been Adelaide's biggest headache, a single stretch of chaos cutting straight through the city's spine. Over 100,000 vehicles grind through it every single day, crawling past 21 traffic lights in just 10 kilometers. Trucks, commuters, buses, all fighting for space. It's not a highway, it's a daily traffic lottery. Economically, it's been a chokehold. South Road carries the lifeblood of the state, freight running between the northern industries and southern ports. But with every red light and every bumper-to-bumper jam, productivity bleeds away. Billions lost in wasted time and fuel. They've tried to fix it before. Remember the South Road Superway? Or the Torrens to Torrens project? Each one helped a bit, but only pushed the bottleneck further down the line. Band-aid fixes on a wound that needed surgery. And that's why the last section, Torrens to Darlington, became the ultimate challenge. It's the final missing piece of the 78-kilometer nonstop motorway, but also the hardest. A corridor so dense with homes, shops, and history that building above ground was practically impossible. For years, planners argued about how to tackle this monster. Should they go overground? That would mean slicing through suburbs, bulldozing businesses, and tearing up communities. Go surface level? Even worse, thousands of homes would vanish under concrete. The answer finally came from below. Go underground. It was risky, expensive, and ambitious, but it was the only way Adelaide could have a continuous motorway without destroying itself. That decision gave rise to what many now refer to as Australia's most complex tunneling project. Two giant three-lane tunnels, each stretching 6 kilometers, burrow right beneath neighborhoods, schools, and even rivers. The entire project covers 10.5 kilometers in total, a seamless underground artery meant to keep traffic flowing from Torrens Road to Darlington Interchange. But this wasn't just an engineering challenge, it was a political gamble and a social experiment all rolled into one. Because once you decide to bury a highway, you're not just changing traffic, you're reshaping how an entire city lives and breathes. So, how does this underground monster actually work? The Torrens to Darlington project isn't just a tunnel, it's two of them. Twin parallel tunnels, one carrying traffic northbound, the other southbound, running like hidden veins beneath Adelaide's western suburbs. The northern tunnel stretches 2.2 kilometers, while the southern one runs an incredible 4 kilometers. Between them lies a 4.3-kilometer open-air section, sunken into the ground to cut down traffic noise for nearby homes. The route connects directly from the River Torrens to the Darlington Interchange, forming the missing link of Adelaide's nonstop motorway. Cars will cruise through at a design speed of 90 kilometers per hour uninterrupted. At its peak, this project employed nearly 5,500 workers, from engineers to crane operators, all part of a massive alliance. John Holland, Bouygues, Arcadis, Jacobs, and Ventia. Together, they're building something South Australia has never seen before, a city literally floating above a highway. It's complex, bold, and terrifyingly precise. And then come the true heroes, or monsters depending on how you look at them. The tunnel boring machines, or TBMs. Built by the legendary German company Herrenknecht, these machines are massive beyond belief. Each one stretches over 100 meters long, weighs thousands of tons, and carries a 15-meter wide cutter head, roughly the height of a 4-story building. Imagine standing in front of that spinning steel face as it chews through solid ground. The cutter head rotates with hydraulic precision, slicing through layers of clay, rock, and soil while maintaining perfect alignment to within millimeters. The secret? Something called Earth Pressure Balance, or EPB technology. As the TBM bores forward, it keeps the internal pressure of the tunnel perfectly balanced with the pressure of the surrounding Earth, so the tunnel walls don't collapse in on themselves. Every move is a cycle. The machine cuts, conveyor belts carry away the soil, and behind it, giant precast concrete rings lock into place like puzzle pieces. Then it pushes forward, slowly, relentlessly, meter by meter. And while the main TBMs handle the big dig, smaller 4-meter-wide TBMs quietly carve out cross passages every 120 meters, providing crucial emergency exits and ventilation links. It's like watching an underground city take shape in slow motion. Now imagine the chaos of moving nearly 3.9 million cubic meters of earth. That's a real nightmare. Every ton of soil the TBMs grind through has to go somewhere. And since this is happening in the suburbs, there's zero room for error. To keep things clean, the spoil doesn't just get dumped. It's carried on enclosed conveyor belts deep underground, straight into massive covered sheds designed to trap dust and dampen noise. From there, fleets of trucks load up and head to the 86-hectare spoil reuse facility at Gilman near the Port of Adelaide. This runs 24/7, thousands of truck trips every week, each one timed down to the minute to avoid clogging up the city's roads even more. The logistics are staggering, almost military level. But with that scale comes controversy. Locals are worried about dust, noise, and carbon emissions. Even with strict environmental controls, thousands of diesel trips and round-the-clock machinery raise fair questions. Because when you move a mountain under a city, you can't hide the tremors. Not in the air, not in the noise, and definitely not in public opinion. If you think digging under a city is tough, try doing it in Adelaide. The ground here is unpredictable. A patchwork of soft, wet clay and sand in one spot and hard bluestone or limestone just a few meters away. It's a nightmare for engineers because every few meters the terrain behaves differently. One section swallows machinery, another breaks drill heads. And then there are the fault lines. Dormant, yes, but still there. They may not quake often, but they leave fractured, unstable rock zones that make tunneling risky. To handle that, engineers had to get creative. Every tunnel segment is built with flexible concrete rings, designed to shift slightly without cracking, absorbing ground movement like a shock absorber. It's less like building a tunnel and more like teaching concrete how to bend, a delicate balance between precision, patience, and pure nerve. Here's the part that keeps engineers awake at night: water. The T2D tunnels run below Adelaide's water table, meaning at any time they're surrounded by pressure from underground water trying to break in. Flooding isn't just possible, it's inevitable if systems fail for even a few minutes. To fight that, massive dewatering pumps run 24/7, constantly moving groundwater away from the tunneling face. But pump too much, too fast, and you get a new problem: subsidence. That's when the surface starts to sink, cracking roads and damaging nearby homes and heritage buildings. So every move has to be balanced perfectly. Hundreds of real-time sensors have been planted throughout the cities, on buildings, roads, and even old bridges. They monitor vibration, pressure, and movement constantly. If the data spikes, the system triggers an automatic alert, and the tunnel boring machine slows or adjusts immediately. In this game, safety isn't just a rule, it's survival. Once complete, this won't be just another road. It will be one of Australia's smartest, most advanced motorway systems. Every meter of tunnel will be wired, watched, and managed from a central control room operating 24/7. Hundreds of CCTV cameras will track every vehicle, while AI detection systems automatically flag stopped cars, swerving drivers, or debris on the road. Within seconds, operators can activate digital signs, slow traffic, or dispatch emergency crews. And in the event of a fire or accident, the system transforms. Jet fans kick in to push smoke in a controlled direction, while deluge sprinklers flood the area to suppress flames. Clearly marked cross passages and emergency exits every 120 meters guide people out fast. It's not just a tunnel, it's a living, breathing infrastructure system designed to protect thousands of drivers every day, deep beneath the city. A highway that can literally think for itself. And then there's the price tag, the part that makes taxpayers wince. The Torrens to Darlington project now sits at a staggering 15.4 billion Australian dollars, making it the most expensive infrastructure project in South Australian history. It's being jointly funded 50-50 by the federal and South Australian governments. But the road to that figure hasn't been smooth. Back in 2020, the cost was estimated at $9.9 billion. Since then, material costs, design changes, and inflation, the total has ballooned to over 15.4 billion Australian dollars and counting. The timeline for the Torrens to Darlington project has stretched far beyond its original plan. Initially set for completion in 2028, the massive undertaking is now projected to finish by 2031. Early works began in 2021 and are expected to continue through 2024, with major construction ramping up from 2025 onward before the final handover in 2031. Adding to the scale, an additional 850 million Australian dollars has been allocated for upgrades to surrounding roads, interchanges, and urban amenities, expanding the project's impact well beyond the tunnel itself. For a city of this size, those numbers are eye-watering. But supporters argue, once done, it'll reshape how Adelaide moves for the next century. Having considered so many blueprints and billion-dollar figures, one cannot ignore the difficult human cost of the T2D project. There were huge stretches of land, over 524 properties acquired and demolished for tunnels, interchanges, and ventilation shafts. Entire neighborhoods where families used to celebrate birthdays, local cafes brewed morning coffees for their authors at the counter, and corner shops nurtured their trade with a smile are slowly disappearing from the map. Many residents would describe the experience as heartrending, with bulldozers rumbling on homes of many generations, away from tight-knit communities scattered across the suburbs of Adelaide. For small business owners, it's beyond just losing a building. They lose their livelihood, their network of customers, and even their identity. Construction areas will provide residents with detours, dust, and noise for years. Peaceful streets are suddenly reverberating with mechanical sounds around the clock. Compensation, for some, does not hold a candle to the heartfelt ire of being uprooted. Progress, however magnificent, weighs very deeply on the human soul. At an accelerated speed of construction, residents and environmentalists are worried about the long-term impact of the T2D project. Ventilation stacks may threaten air quality near houses, schools, and parks, thus raising health concerns. Noise and vibrations threaten heritage buildings, as do learning environments. It has thus been alleged by opponents that billions of dollars will be spent on the infrastructure for cars, which they call an anachronism. They suggest that the money be funneled instead toward public transport and greener substitutes, for which, incidentally, the world has made clear cries of priority from a sustainability standpoint and modern-day urban development perspective. Few discussions have been as heated as the one concerning the T2D project's cost ratio, or BCR. In early studies, it was a mere 0.7, meaning that for every dollar that was spent, a mere 70 cents of economic benefit was realized, a worrying sign for a project of this size. According to government officials, in contrast, updated models painted a different picture of the numbers when indirect benefits were included, such as lack of congestion and excessive longevity compared to productivity gains. Economists are thus on either side. Opponents say that it is the T2D that acts as an essential growth channel to unlock freight movement between the port and industries in the south and finally resolve Adelaide's infamous traffic problems. Critics, however, label it as a multi-billion-dollar gamble, arguing it may simply shift bottlenecks further south to the Darlington interchange instead of eliminating them. To them, the project symbolizes a short-term political win with uncertain long-term payoffs, an expensive solution chasing an ever-moving traffic problem. When the Torrens to Darlington project finally reaches completion, Adelaide will stand alongside other Australian capitals with a continuous, traffic light-free north-south motorway stretching from Gawler to Old Noarlunga. It's expected to cut peak hour commutes by up to 40 minutes and revolutionize freight movement between the port, airport, and manufacturing hubs, cementing Adelaide's place as a key logistics gateway. The product also sustains around 5,500 jobs each year, supporting local economies and developing future engineers and tradespeople. Beyond roads, it promises green corridors, cycling paths, and walking routes to reconnect divided neighborhoods. Yet, not everyone sees it as progress. To some, it's a necessary step towards modernization. To others, it's a $15 billion mistake that favors cars over sustainability. The Torrens to Darlington stands at the crossroads of ambition and accountability, a mirror reflecting the choices cities face between speed, sustainability, and the true cost of progress. The Torrens to Darlington Project stands as both a marvel of engineering and a monument to sacrifice. Beneath Adelaide's streets lies not just a tunnel, but the story of ambition, loss, and change. Would you call this vision or vanity? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your opinion on whether this $15 billion Australian dollar gamble will truly pay off.